Catherine Ashford stood in our kitchen that Tuesday morning, her voice carrying the practiced cadence of someone who had rehearsed this speech in front of the bathroom mirror. "I need space to find myself again, William. 2 weeks in Italy completely alone. No distractions, no obligations, just me and the opportunity to rediscover who I am beneath all these expectations." I poured my coffee and watched her performance unfold. Kat had always possessed a flair for the dramatic, but this particular production felt different, more calculated. Her words came too smoothly, her gestures too rehearsed, like an actress who had memorized her lines but forgotten to feel them. "That sounds wonderful, honey," I said, matching her theatrical tone with genuine enthusiasm. "You deserve this time to yourself. When do you leave?" "Thursday morning. I've already booked everything. Flights, hotels, tours. The whole itinerary is planned." She paused, studying my face for signs of protest or jealousy. Finding none, she continued with slightly less confidence. "I'll be staying at boutique hotels along the Amalfi Coast. Solo travelers get better rates, you know." Solo travelers. The phrase hung between us like incense in a church, sacred and slightly suffocating. "Of course they do," I agreed, taking another sip of coffee. "Smart thinking." Kat's expression flickered with something that might have been disappointment. She had expected resistance, perhaps even desperation. Instead, she found a husband who seemed genuinely supportive of her need for solitary exploration. What she didn't know was that I had already discovered the credit card charges from 3 weeks ago, charges for 2 plane tickets to Rome, booked under her name and someone else's. Someone named Gregory Thornton, whose LinkedIn profile described him as a wellness entrepreneur and whose Instagram account featured shirtless photos from various exotic locations. "I'll drive you to the airport," I offered. "That's not necessary." "I insist. It's the least I can do for my wife's journey of self-discovery." Kat's smile wavered slightly. "Okay, thank you." Thursday morning arrived with the crisp efficiency of autumn in New England. Kat's suitcase sat by the front door, a designer piece that cost more than my monthly car payment. She had packed enough clothes for a month, despite her claims of minimalist travel. "Ready for your adventure?" I asked, loading her luggage into my truck. "I think so." She climbed into the passenger seat, her phone already buzzing with messages. "My friend Lila is so jealous. She says I'm brave for traveling alone." Lila Foster ran a yoga studio downtown and possessed the unique ability to make every conversation about herself while appearing deeply concerned about others. If Kat had confided her real plans to anyone, it would be Lila. "Lila's always been supportive," I said, pulling out of our driveway. "What did she think about your solo trip idea?" "She said it was exactly what I needed. Time away from everything here." From me, she meant. Time away from me. The drive to Logan International Airport took 45 minutes through morning traffic. Kat spent most of it staring out the window, occasionally checking her phone and typing responses that made her smile in ways I hadn't seen in months. "Nervous?" I asked as we approached the departure terminal. "A little. It's been so long since I've done anything completely on my own." "Except you're not doing this on your own," I thought. "Gregory Thornton is probably already in Rome, waiting for you at whatever romantic restaurant you've planned for tonight." I pulled up to the curb and helped her with her luggage. Kat stood there for a moment, looking almost guilty, as if she wanted to confess something but couldn't find the words. "Have an amazing time," I said, kissing her cheek. "Take lots of pictures." "I will." She hugged me tightly, and for a brief moment I wondered if she might change her mind. Instead, she pulled away and grabbed her suitcase handle. "I'll call you when I land." "Safe travels, Kat." I watched her disappear through the automatic doors, her blonde hair catching the morning sunlight one last time before she vanished into the crowd of travelers. Then I drove home to begin the real work. My home office occupied the converted basement of our Victorian house, a space Kat rarely visited because she claimed it felt too much like a cave. The irony wasn't lost on me that her avoidance of my workspace would now facilitate her downfall. I opened my laptop and began documenting everything I had discovered over the past 3 weeks. The evidence had accumulated slowly, like sediment settling at the bottom of a clear lake, until the water became too murky to ignore. It started with a credit card statement that arrived early, a billing error that revealed charges I didn't recognize, 2 round-trip tickets to Rome, hotel reservations for 2 people, restaurant bookings that coincided with dates Kat had claimed to be working late at her consulting job. From there, the investigation expanded naturally. I cloned her phone using software I had acquired during my years as an IT consultant, perfectly legal when applied to devices you jointly own. Her location services painted a detailed picture of meetings with Gregory Thornton at upscale hotels, expensive restaurants, and his apartment across town. Gregory Thornton, age 42, divorced, self-employed wellness coach who specialized in helping people discover their authentic selves through transformative experiences. His website featured testimonials from grateful clients who had found clarity through his guidance. Apparently, his guidance included romantic getaways with married women. I printed out everything: credit card statements, phone records, location data, screenshots of text messages that would make a sailor blush. The evidence filled a manila folder that grew thicker each day as Kat's departure approached. My phone rang around 3 in the afternoon. Kat's voice came through with the excited breathlessness of someone who had just experienced something wonderful. "I made it. Rome is absolutely beautiful. The hotel is perfect, exactly what I needed." "That's great, honey. How was the flight?" "Long but worth it. I'm already feeling more relaxed. There's something liberating about being completely anonymous in a foreign city." Anonymous. Right. "I'm glad you're settling in. What are your plans for tonight?" "Nothing elaborate. Maybe find a quiet restaurant and have dinner alone. Practice being comfortable with my own company." In the background, I could hear traffic and the distant sound of someone speaking Italian. But I also heard something else. A man's voice, too close to be a stranger, saying something that made Kat laugh. "Well, enjoy your quiet dinner," I said. "I love you." "Love you too. I'll send pictures." She hung up, and I immediately checked the location data from her phone. She was at the Hotel Artemide in central Rome, just as she had claimed. But according to the hotel's website, her room was a deluxe double. Strange choice for a solo traveler seeking solitude. Over the next 2 weeks, Kat's solo journey unfolded exactly as I had expected. Her Instagram posts showed carefully cropped photos of scenic locations, plates of food, and sunset views. But the credit card charges told a different story: romantic restaurants, couples activities, expensive wine that solo travelers rarely order by the bottle. The most damning evidence came from her location data. Every evening, her phone showed her at romantic destinations with Gregory Thornton, whose own social media had gone suspiciously quiet since Kat's departure. He was there, just outside the frame of every photo, sharing every meal and every sunset she claimed to be experiencing alone. I spent those 2 weeks preparing for her return. My attorney, Douglas Whitmore, had known me since college and understood the situation without requiring extensive explanation. "You want to file for divorce?" he asked during our consultation. "I want to file for divorce and have the papers ready when she returns from her trip." "Any particular reason for the timing?" I handed him the manila folder. "She's currently in Italy with another man, believing I have no idea. When she comes home, she'll probably suggest we separate or divorce, expecting me to beg her to reconsider. I'd prefer to skip that performance." Douglas reviewed the evidence with the practiced efficiency of someone who had seen similar cases too many times. "This is thorough, very thorough. You've been planning this for a while." 3 weeks, ever since I found the credit card charges." "And you're certain about proceeding?" "Completely certain." "Then we'll have everything ready for her return. Massachusetts is a no-fault divorce state, but this evidence will certainly help with asset division if she decides to contest anything." I signed the papers that afternoon, 2 days before Kat was scheduled to return from her journey of self-discovery. The irony felt appropriate. While she was discovering herself with Gregory Thornton on the Amalfi Coast, I was discovering my freedom in a lawyer's office in downtown Boston. The house felt different during Kat's absence, quieter, but not in a lonely way, more like the quiet of a library where you can finally concentrate on important work. I used the time to make practical preparations, opening my own bank account, changing passwords on shared accounts, and researching apartments in case the divorce proceedings became contentious. But mostly, I waited and planned what I would say when she returned with her rehearsed speech about needing space and time to think about our future. Kat's return flight landed at Logan on a Tuesday evening, exactly 2 weeks after her departure. She had texted me that morning with her arrival time, along with a message that felt ominous in its careful neutrality. Looking forward to talking when I get home. We need to discuss some things. We certainly did need to discuss some things, just not the things she expected. I picked her up at the airport, watching her emerge from the international terminal with the golden tan of someone who had spent 2 weeks in Mediterranean sunshine. She looked rested, confident, and slightly guilty, the expression of someone who had made important decisions and was preparing to announce them. "How was the trip?" I asked, loading her suitcase into my truck. "Transformative," she said, settling into the passenger seat. "Really transformative. I learned so much about myself." "Such as?" "Well," she paused, choosing her words carefully. "I realized that I've been living my life according to other people's expectations for so long that I forgot what I actually want." "And what do you want?" Another pause. Longer this time. "I'm not sure yet. That's what I need to figure out." The drive home passed in relative silence, with Kat occasionally commenting on how different everything looked after 2 weeks away. She was building towards something. I could feel it in the way she kept glancing at me, measuring my mood, preparing for the right moment to deliver whatever speech she had rehearsed. We pulled into our driveway as the sun was setting, casting long shadows across the front yard. Kat stood for a moment, looking at our house as if seeing it for the first time. "It's funny," she said. "2 weeks ago this felt like home. Now it feels like..." "Like what?" "Like someone else's life." There it was, the opening line of her performance. We went inside, and Kat immediately began the ritual of unpacking, sorting dirty clothes, displaying small souvenirs, and organizing the photos on her phone. I made coffee and waited for the main event. "William," she said finally, sitting down across from me at the kitchen table, "we need to talk about us." "Okay." "I did a lot of thinking in Italy. About our marriage, about what I want from life, about whether we're still compatible." She was speaking slowly, watching my face for reactions. "And I have to be honest, I'm really not sure about us anymore." The words hung in the air like smoke from an extinguished candle. Kat was studying my expression, waiting for the desperate response that would confirm her power over the situation. She expected pleading, perhaps anger, certainly some kind of emotional reaction that would validate her decision to spend 2 weeks with Gregory Thornton. Instead, I smiled. "Actually," I said calmly, "I already signed the divorce papers this morning." Kat's face froze. Not the gradual realization of someone processing unexpected information, but the complete stillness of someone whose entire script had just been thrown away. "What?" she whispered. "The divorce papers. I signed them this morning and filed them this afternoon. I figured it would save us both some time." "But how did you... When did you... When did I what, Kat? When did I find out about Gregory Thornton? When did I discover that your solo trip included a wellness entrepreneur from Brookline? When did I realize that your journey of self-discovery was actually a 2-week romantic getaway?" The color drained from her face. "I don't know what you're talking about." I pulled out my phone and opened the photo gallery. These are screenshots from your location data. Here you are at the Hotel Artemide in Rome, the same hotel where Gregory checked in 3 hours before you arrived. Here's your location data from the restaurant where you had that quiet solo dinner, the same restaurant where Gregory posted an Instagram story about amazing Italian cuisine, though he was careful not to include you in the shot. Kat stared at the phone screen as if it contained evidence of her own murder. Here's my personal favorite, I continued, swiping to another screenshot. Your location data from the Amalfi Coast, where you spent 3 days at a romantic hotel that specializes in couples retreats. Gregory's credit card was charged for a couple's massage on the same day you texted me about finding inner peace through solitude. You've been spying on me? I've been documenting your adultery. There's a difference. Kat stood up abruptly, pacing to the kitchen window and back. This is insane. You can't just file for divorce without discussing it with me first. Actually, I can. Massachusetts is a no-fault divorce state, which means I don't need your permission or agreement. I just need to demonstrate that our marriage has irretrievably broken down. I gestured toward my phone. I think the evidence speaks for itself. You had no right to track my location. I had every right to monitor devices that I pay for, particularly when those devices were being used to coordinate adultery. I stood up and walked to my home office, returning with the manila folder I had prepared. Would you like to see the credit card statements, the hotel reservations, the text messages between you and Gregory discussing your amazing connection and how much you were looking forward to 2 weeks together? Kat sank back into her chair, the folder in front of her like a bomb she was afraid to defuse. How long have you known? 3 weeks. Ever since the credit card statement arrived early and I saw charges for 2 plane tickets to Rome. And you said nothing? What was I supposed to say? Have fun on your romantic getaway, dear, and please use protection. I figured it was better to let you play out your little drama and then respond accordingly. Kat opened the folder and began flipping through the evidence. With each page, her expression grew more resigned. This is very thorough. I'm good at my job. Attention to detail is important in IT consulting. So what happens now? Now you find somewhere else to live while we work out the details. I've already spoken with Douglas Whitmore. You remember Douglas, he was at our wedding, and he's handling the paperwork. You'll want to get your own attorney. William, wait. Can't we at least talk about this? Maybe try counseling or... Counseling? I laughed, surprising myself with how bitter it sounded. You want to try counseling after spending 2 weeks in Italy with another man? After lying to my face every day for the past month? After planning this elaborate deception and expecting me to beg you not to leave when you returned? Kat's eyes filled with tears, whether from genuine remorse or frustrated manipulation, I couldn't tell. It wasn't supposed to happen this way. How was it supposed to happen, Kat? You were going to come home and announce that you needed space, right? Maybe suggest a trial separation? String me along for a few more months while you figured out whether Gregory was a suitable replacement? She didn't deny it. Well, congratulations, I continued. You got your space. Permanent space. I hope your journey of self-discovery was worth it. Kat wiped her eyes and closed the folder. Where am I supposed to go tonight? That's not my problem anymore. You could try Gregory's place. I have his address if you need it. Or maybe Lila has a spare room at her yoga studio. I'm sure she'd love to hear all about your transformative experience. You're being cruel. I'm being practical. You made your choice in Italy, Kat. Actually, you made your choice 3 weeks before you left for Italy, when you started planning this whole charade. I'm just responding to the choice you already made. She gathered her things slowly, like someone trying to delay an inevitable execution. What about our stuff? Our house? Our life together? Our attorneys will work out the details. The house is in both our names, so we'll probably have to sell it and split the proceeds. As for our life together, I shrugged. Apparently that ended somewhere between Rome and the Amalfi Coast. Kat loaded her suitcases into her car, a silver BMW that I had helped her pick out 2 years ago. She stood in our driveway for a moment, looking back at the house as if memorizing it. "I never meant to hurt you," she said. "Yes, you did." She drove away as the streetlights were coming on, her taillights disappearing around the corner like the end of a movie I was glad to finish watching. I went back inside and poured myself a drink, a good whiskey that Kat had always claimed was too expensive for casual consumption. The house felt different now, not empty, but clean, like a room after the clutter has been cleared away. My phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. "This is Gregory. We need to talk." I deleted the message without responding. Gregory Thornton could wait. I had more important things to do than manage the guilt of my wife's lover. Over the next few days, I began the practical work of untangling a shared life. Separate bank accounts, individual insurance policies, dividing up the streaming service subscriptions that had somehow become symbols of domestic partnership. Each task felt like removing stitches from a wound that had already healed. Kat stayed with Lila, according to the address forwarding she had submitted to the post office. She called twice, both times asking if we could meet to discuss things rationally. I declined both invitations. We had already discussed everything that mattered, and rationality seemed like an odd priority for someone who had just spent 2 weeks in Italy with a wellness entrepreneur. The divorce proceedings moved forward with surprising efficiency. Kat hired an attorney, a woman named Patricia Mills who specialized in collaborative divorce solutions. But there wasn't much to collaborate about. The evidence was overwhelming, the assets were straightforward, and neither of us wanted to drag the process out longer than necessary. "Your husband was very prepared," Patricia told Kat during one of their meetings, according to Douglas. "It's unusual to see this level of documentation." Unusual, perhaps, but effective. Kat's attorney advised her to accept the proposed settlement rather than contest it in court, where the evidence of her adultery would become part of the public record. "She's agreed to everything," Douglas informed me during our final meeting. "Asset division, debt responsibility, even the timeline for selling the house. I think she just wants this to be over." "Good. So do I." "There is one thing," Douglas said, reviewing his notes. "She asked if you would be willing to meet with her one more time, not for legal purposes, just to talk." "About what?" "She didn't specify. Her attorney described it as closure." I considered the request for approximately 3 seconds. "No, we have nothing left to discuss. I'll let Patricia know." The final divorce decree arrived on a Thursday morning, exactly 6 weeks after Kat's return from Italy. The document was surprisingly brief, 2 pages that dissolved 8 years of marriage with the bureaucratic efficiency of a canceled subscription service. I signed the papers and filed them away in the same manila folder that had started everything. Then I called my real estate agent and put the house on the market. It was time to start over. But first, there was one more conversation I needed to have. Gregory Thornton worked out at an upscale fitness club called Elevation, located in a converted warehouse in Cambridge. According to his Instagram account, he was there every morning at 6:30, following what he described as a holistic wellness routine that integrates physical strength with spiritual alignment. I joined Elevation on a Tuesday morning, paying the exorbitant monthly fee that granted access to their state-of-the-art equipment and their clientele of wellness entrepreneurs. The staff member who processed my membership application was enthusiastic about my commitment to personal transformation. "First time joining a premium fitness facility?" she asked. "Something like that. I'm going through some major life changes and figured it was time to invest in myself." "That's exactly the right attitude. You'll find that our community is very supportive of personal growth journeys." Personal growth journeys. The language of self-improvement had infected everything, turning adultery into authenticity and betrayal into brave choices. I arrived at 6:20 the next morning, early enough to observe the regular routines. Gregory appeared precisely on schedule, carrying a protein shake and wearing athletic wear that probably cost more than most people's monthly car payments. He was smaller than I had expected, maybe 5'10", with the lean build of someone who spent more time on appearance than actual strength. He moved through his workout with the focused intensity of someone performing for an invisible audience, checking his form in the mirrors and occasionally pausing to respond to text messages. I wondered if any of those messages were from Kat, who had been notably quiet since our divorce was finalized. I waited until he finished his routine and headed toward the locker room. Then, I intercepted him near the smoothie bar, where he was ordering something called a chakra-balancing green goddess blend. "Gregory Thornton?" He turned, and I saw recognition flicker across his face. He had probably seen photos of me on Kat's social media, though she had been careful to minimize my presence in her online persona. "Do I know you?" he asked, though his expression suggested he knew exactly who I was. "William Ashford, Kat's husband. Well, ex-husband now." Gregory's smile faltered slightly, but he recovered quickly. "William, yes, Kat mentioned you. I'm sorry about your divorce. These things are never easy." "No, they're not, especially when they involve 2-week romantic getaways disguised as solo journeys of self-discovery." The smoothie bar attendant pretended not to listen while blending Gregory's chakra-balancing beverage. Other gym members continued their workouts, but I could feel the subtle attention that comes when people sense drama unfolding nearby. "I think there might be some misunderstanding," Gregory said carefully. "Kat and I are just friends. I happened to be in Italy at the same time, and we ran into each other." "Gregory." I kept my voice calm and conversational. "I have credit card statements showing that you paid for couples' activities. I have location data proving that you stayed at the same hotels. I have text messages between you and Kat discussing your amazing connection and how much you were looking forward to 2 weeks together." His protein shake arrived, and he accepted it with hands that trembled slightly. "Look, I understand you're upset. I'm not upset. I'm divorced. There's a difference. What do you want from me?" "I want you to understand something very clearly." I stepped closer, lowering my voice so only he could hear. "My marriage is over. Kat made her choice, and I've moved on. But if you think you can continue this relationship without consequences, you're mistaken." "Are you threatening me?" "I'm informing you. Kat's adultery is now part of the public record, thanks to our divorce proceedings. Your role in that adultery is documented in detail. I have photos, credit card statements, location data, and text messages that paint a very clear picture of your character." Gregory's face had gone pale beneath his gym tan. "What are you planning to do with that information?" "That depends on you. If you disappear from Kat's life and find someone else to help with your wellness coaching, I'll keep the information private. If you continue this relationship, I'll make sure everyone in your professional network knows exactly what kind of guidance you provide to married clients." "You can't." "I can, and I will. Your business depends on trust and reputation. How many clients do you think will want wellness coaching from someone who specializes in destroying marriages?" Gregory stared at his protein shake as if it contained the answer to his problems. Around us, the gym continued its morning routine, people pursuing their personal transformation goals while we discussed the destruction of his professional reputation. "Kat told me your marriage was already over," he said finally. "She said you two had been growing apart for years." "And you believed her?" "Why wouldn't I? She seemed genuinely unhappy." "Gregory, let me explain something about Kat that you apparently haven't discovered yet. She's very good at telling people what they want to hear. She told you that our marriage was over because that made your affair feel justified. She told me that she needed space to find herself because that made her betrayal sound like personal growth. And she's probably telling herself that this whole situation is somehow my fault because that makes her feel better about destroying an 8-year marriage for a wellness entrepreneur she met at a coffee shop. It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that. But here's the thing. I don't care about your motivations or your justifications. I care about results. And the result I want is for you to stay away from my ex-wife and find some other way to practice your holistic lifestyle coaching. Gregory finished his smoothie in silence, occasionally glancing around the gym as if looking for escape routes. Finally, he spoke. And if I don't? Then you'll discover that I'm very good at my job, and my job involves managing information systems. Your business website, your social media accounts, your client database, all of that exists in digital spaces that can be very easily disrupted by someone with the right skills and sufficient motivation. That's illegal. Prove it. And while you're trying to prove it, explain to your clients why your wellness coaching business is suddenly associated with adultery and marriage destruction. I left him standing at the smoothie bar, staring into his empty cup like it might contain guidance for his next career move. The conversation had lasted less than 10 minutes, but I was confident it would have lasting effects. That afternoon, I received a text from Kat. Gregory told me you confronted him at the gym. We need to talk. I deleted the message without responding. 2 hours later, another text. This is harassment, William. I'm calling my attorney. I forwarded the message to Douglas with a note. FYI, apparently having conversations in public places now constitutes harassment. Douglas called me within an hour. Patricia Mills wants to know if you threatened her client's boyfriend. I had a conversation with Gregory Thornton about the consequences of his actions. No threats were made. What kind of consequences? Professional consequences, social consequences, the kind of consequences that naturally follow when people discover you're a wellness coach who specializes in destroying marriages. Douglas was quiet for a moment. William, I understand your anger. I'm not angry, Douglas. I'm practical. Gregory Thornton participated in the destruction of my marriage. Now he gets to experience some destruction of his own. Just be careful. Harassment charges could complicate things. There won't be any harassment charges. I had one conversation with the man, in a public place, where I informed him about the potential professional consequences of his actions. That's not harassment. That's education. Over the next week, Gregory's social media presence began to change. The confident posts about transformation and authentic living became less frequent. His business website removed several client testimonials. Most tellingly, his location data, which I continued to monitor through the same methods I had used to track Kat's Italian adventure, showed that he was no longer spending time at Kat's new apartment. Kat called me directly on a Thursday evening, the first time we had spoken since the night she returned from Italy. You need to stop this, she said without preamble. Stop what? You know what. Whatever you said to Gregory, whatever you threatened him with, it needs to stop. I didn't threaten anyone. I simply explained the situation to him. He won't return my calls. He won't see me. He's talking about leaving Boston entirely. Sounds like he's making good choices for once. William, this is vindictive and cruel. No, Kat. Vindictive and cruel would be posting your text messages on social media. Vindictive and cruel would be sending the evidence of your affair to your consulting clients. Vindictive and cruel would be making sure that everyone in your professional network knows exactly why our marriage ended. You wouldn't. I haven't, but I could. The question is whether you want to keep pushing me toward vindictive and cruel, or whether you'd prefer to accept that your romantic Italian adventure has consequences. Kat was quiet for so long that I wondered if the call had disconnected. Finally, she spoke in a voice that sounded smaller than I remembered. I never meant for things to go this far. Yes, you did. You meant for things to go exactly this far. You just meant to control how they went. You wanted to manage the timeline, script my reactions, and minimize the consequences for yourself and Gregory. The only thing you didn't mean was to get caught before you were ready to reveal everything. So, what happens now? Now, you figure out how to live with the choices you made, just like I'm figuring out how to live with the choices you made. Will you ever forgive me? The question caught me off guard, not because it was unexpected, but because of how little I cared about the answer. 3 months ago, Kat's forgiveness had seemed like the most important thing in the world. Now it felt like a question from a stranger about someone I used to know. Forgiveness isn't the right word, I said finally. I don't think about you enough anymore to maintain anger. You're just someone I used to be married to who made some bad decisions. Whether I forgive you or not doesn't change anything for either of us. That's worse than anger. Maybe, but it's honest. After I hung up, I realized that our conversation had felt like closing a book I had finished reading weeks ago. There was no dramatic satisfaction, no sense of victory or vindication, just the quiet relief of completing something that had taken too long to finish. The house sold 2 weeks later to a young couple who were excited about the historic character and original details. I used my share of the proceeds to buy a smaller place across town, a modern condo with no history and no memories. Gregory Thornton's wellness coaching business quietly disappeared from the internet sometime in November. According to his LinkedIn profile, he had relocated to Portland, Oregon, where he was exploring new opportunities in sustainable living consultation. Kat moved back to her hometown in western Massachusetts, where she started working for her father's insurance agency. Her social media presence became sporadic, then stopped entirely. I kept their information bookmarked in my browser for a few months, checking occasionally to see how their personal transformation journeys were progressing, but eventually, I lost interest in their stories and deleted the bookmarks. Some endings don't require dramatic confrontations or satisfying revenge. Sometimes the best conclusion is simply the absence of people who brought chaos into your life. My divorce was final, my house was sold, my ex-wife and her lover had moved on to other cities and other mistakes, and I was free to discover what my own life looked like when it belonged entirely to me. The investigation was over. The case was closed. It was time to start writing a new story.